I never thought Mother's Day would become the day that changed everything in my family. What started as the most painful silence I'd ever experienced turned into the most beautiful validation I could have imagined. But let me tell you, the journey to get there nearly broke my heart completely. And the transformation that followed shocked everyone who thought they knew me. My name is Linda, I'm 72 years old, and for the past 50 years, I've been the mother who never said no. I raised 4 children, mostly on my own after my husband passed, when the youngest was only 8. I worked double shifts at the hospital as a nurse, came home to cook dinner, helped with homework, drove to soccer games, piano recitals, school plays. I was there for every scraped knee, every broken heart, every graduation, every crisis, every celebration. I thought I was building something beautiful, a close, loving family that would always be there for each other, supporting one another through thick and thin. How wrong I was, how completely, devastatingly wrong. Let me paint you a picture of what my life looked like before that fateful Mother's Day. Every Sunday, I would spend my entire weekend preparing dinner for 15 people, my 4 children, their spouses, and my 8 grandchildren. I'd shop on Friday, prep on Saturday, cook all day Sunday, serve everyone, clean up afterward, and send everyone home with leftovers. During the week, I was the free babysitter when someone had a work emergency, the bank when someone needed money, the therapist when someone needed to vent, and the event coordinator when someone needed a birthday party planned. My phone rang constantly with requests. Mom, can you watch the kids this weekend? Mom, can you lend me money for the car payment? Mom, can you help me organize the baby shower? Mom, can you drive Grandpa to his doctor's appointment? I said yes to everything because that's what mothers do, right? We sacrifice ourselves for our families. We put everyone else first. We make sure everyone else is happy and comfortable, even if it means we have no time or energy left for ourselves. I had convinced myself that this was love, that being needed meant being loved, that the more I gave, the more secure my place in my family would be. I had no idea I was actually making myself invisible. It all started on Mother's Day morning. I woke up at 7, like I always do, and reached for my phone expecting to see the usual flood of messages. Happy Mother's Day, Mom! Thank you for everything. Love you so much. You know, the kind of messages that make all those years of sacrifice feel worth it. But when I unlocked my phone, there was nothing. Not a single text, not one call. The silence was deafening. I sat there in my empty house, staring at that blank screen, and for the first time in decades, I felt truly alone. My oldest son, Michael, lives just 20 minutes away with his wife, Jennifer, and their 2 teenage kids, Emma and Jake. My daughter, Sarah, lives across town with her husband, Tom, and their 3 children, Lucy, Sam, and baby Oliver. My son, David, lives in the same city with his wife, Kelly, and their twin daughters, Sophia and Isabella. And my youngest, Robert, lives about an hour away with his wife, Amanda, and their newborn son, Marcus. 4 children, 8 grandchildren, all living within driving distance, and not one of them remembered their mother on Mother's Day. I kept checking my phone every few minutes, thinking maybe the messages just hadn't come through yet. Maybe there was a network issue. Maybe they were planning something special and wanted to surprise me. Maybe they were all going to show up at my door with flowers and homemade cards like they used to when they were little. But as the hours ticked by, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, the silence only grew louder. By noon, I couldn't take it anymore. The anxiety was eating me alive. I decided to drive to Michael's house, telling myself that maybe they were having a family gathering and just forgot to invite me. It wouldn't be the first time something like that had happened. As I pulled into their driveway, I could see through the large living room window that they were all there. Michael, Jennifer, their kids Emma and Jake, plus Sarah and her entire family, even David and his wife Kelly. They were laughing, eating what looked like an elaborate brunch, having a wonderful time. Without me, I sat in my car for 10 minutes, watching my family celebrate Mother's Day, while completely forgetting about the actual mother who had given birth to half the people in that room. Jennifer was opening gifts from her children, getting hugs and kisses, being celebrated as the wonderful mother she was. Her own mother was there too, sitting in the place of honor at the head of the table, wearing a corsage and beaming with pride. And there I was, the woman who had given everything to raise the people in that room, sitting outside like a stranger, like someone who didn't belong. I could see Emma, my 17-year-old granddaughter, laughing at something her Uncle David had said. I could see little Lucy helping serve pancakes, and the twin girls playing with baby Oliver. This was my family, These were my children and grandchildren, but somehow I wasn't part of their celebration. I drove home without even getting out of the car. I couldn't face the humiliation of walking in and reminding them that I existed, that I was the reason they were all there in the first place. The afternoon dragged on like a slow torture. I tried to distract myself by cleaning the house, organizing old photo albums, anything to keep my mind off the crushing disappointment. But those photo albums were the worst part. Picture after picture of birthday parties I'd thrown, staying up until midnight to decorate and bake elaborate cakes. Christmas mornings where I'd stayed up all night wrapping presents, making sure every child had exactly what they'd asked for. Family vacations I'd saved for months to afford, working extra shifts at the hospital so we could all go to Disney World or the beach. Graduation parties, wedding showers, baby showers, all organized and paid for by me. In every single photo, I was there, usually in the background, making sure everyone else was happy and comfortable while I ran around serving, cleaning, organizing. Looking at those pictures, I realized something heartbreaking. I was always the one behind the camera or rushing around in the background. There were very few pictures of me just enjoying the moment, just being present as a family member rather than as the event coordinator. As evening approached, I finally broke down and called Michael. Maybe something had happened. Maybe there was an emergency, and that's why no one had contacted me. Maybe someone was sick, or there had been an accident, or some reasonable explanation for why my entire family had forgotten I existed on the one day of the year dedicated to mothers. "Oh, hi, Mom," he said casually when he answered. I could hear laughter and conversation in the background, the sound of my family having a wonderful time without me. "What's up? What's up?" I repeated, barely able to believe what I was hearing. "Michael, it's Mother's Day." There was a pause, and I could almost hear him mentally slapping his forehead. "Oh, right. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Sorry, we've been really busy today. Jennifer's mom is visiting, and we had this whole brunch thing planned for her." Jennifer's mom. They had planned a Mother's Day celebration for Jennifer's mom, complete with the elaborate brunch I'd seen through the window. But not for me. I was their mother, the woman who had raised Michael and been there for every important moment of his life. But I wasn't worth remembering on Mother's Day. "That's nice," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. I thought maybe we could spend some time together today." "Yeah, maybe next weekend? Things are just crazy right now. The kids have so much going on, and Jennifer's been planning this thing for weeks." Next weekend. Like Mother's Day was just any other day that could be rescheduled for convenience. Like my feelings and my one special day a year were less important than their social obligations. I hung up and immediately called Sarah, hoping for a different response. "Oh, hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. Sorry, we're at Tom's parents' house. His mom wanted the whole family together for this big Mother's Day lunch she planned." Another celebration I wasn't invited to. Another family gathering that didn't include the grandmother of the children who were there. Then David. "Hey, Mom, we're actually out of town this weekend visiting Kelly's family. Her grandmother is turning 90 and wanted all the mothers and grandmothers together for a special celebration." Again, a multi-generational Mother's Day celebration that included everyone except me. And finally, Robert. "Mom, I meant to call earlier. We're swamped with the baby's sleep schedule, and Amanda's been really overwhelmed. Her mom came to help out for the week." 4 children, 4 excuses, 4 clear messages that their mother wasn't a priority on Mother's Day. 4 examples of them making time and effort for other people's mothers while completely forgetting about their own. I spent that evening alone in my house, surrounded by 50 years of memories of a family I thought I'd built, wondering where I'd gone wrong. Had I been too giving, too available? Had I made myself so indispensable that they'd started taking me for granted, and then so dispensable that they could forget me entirely? Had I been such a constant presence in their lives that they'd stopped seeing me as a person and started seeing me as just part of the landscape? That night, as I was scrolling through Facebook trying to distract myself from my thoughts, I saw post after post of Mother's Day celebrations. My friends' children had taken them to fancy brunches, sent elaborate flower arrangements, written heartfelt posts about their amazing mothers. My neighbor Carol's son, who lives in California, had flown in just to spend Mother's Day weekend with her. My book club friend Margaret's daughter had organized a surprise party with all her friends and relatives. Even my co-worker from the hospital, who I'd kept in touch with since retirement, had posted pictures of the beautiful necklace her son had given her, along with a card that made her cry happy tears. And that's when I saw it. My granddaughter Emma, Michael's 17-year-old daughter, had posted something on Instagram, but it wasn't a typical teenage post about boys or friends or school drama. It was a picture of me from last Christmas when I was teaching her how to make my famous sugar cookies. We were both covered in flour, laughing at something she'd said about the cookie dough looking like alien goop. But it was the caption that stopped my heart and brought tears to my eyes. Everyone's posting about their moms today, and I want to post about the woman who taught my mom and dad how to be parents. My grandmother, Linda, is the strongest, kindest, most selfless person I know. She worked 2 jobs to put 4 kids through college after my grandfather died when they were young. She never missed a single one of my school plays, even when she had to work double shifts at the hospital to make ends meet. She taught me how to bake, how to be brave when things get scary, and how to love people unconditionally, even when they don't deserve it. She's been the rock of our family for as long as I've been alive, always making sure everyone else is okay, even when she's tired or stressed, or probably needs someone to take care of her for a change. If I ever become a mom someday, I hope I can be even half the mother and grandmother she's been to everyone in our family. Happy Mother's Day to the woman who deserves it most, but probably won't get nearly enough recognition today. Grandma goals, Mother's Day, family, love, grateful. I read that post 5 times before the tears made it impossible to see the screen clearly. In that moment, I realized that while my children had forgotten me, at least one person in my family understood what I'd given. At least one person saw me, really saw me, for who I was and what I'd sacrificed. At least one person recognized that I was a person with feelings and needs, not just a service provider. But that post also opened my eyes to something else that was even more painful. If Emma could see it, why couldn't her parents? If a 17-year-old could understand the value of what I'd given to this family, why couldn't the adults I'd raised? How had I failed so completely as a mother that my own children couldn't see what my granddaughter saw so clearly? I screenshot Emma's post and saved it to my phone. It became my lifeline during the dark days that followed, proof that I wasn't crazy, that I had made a difference, that I was worthy of love and recognition. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. I was done being taken for granted. I was done being the mother who gave and gave and gave, while receiving nothing but silence in return. I was done being invisible to the people I'd devoted my life to loving. I started with a simple decision. I wasn't going to reach out first anymore. For years, decades even, I'd been the one calling to check in, the one suggesting family dinners, the one organizing holiday gatherings, the one remembering birthdays and anniversaries. I was always the one making the effort, always the one extending the invitation, always the one keeping the family connected. So I decided to see what would happen if I stopped. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories about finding your strength and standing up for yourself. Days turned into weeks. My phone stayed silent. No one called to check on me, to see how I was doing, or to ask why they hadn't heard from me. No one seemed to notice that I wasn't organizing our usual family Sunday dinners. No one wondered why I wasn't sending my typical thinking of you texts or showing up with groceries when I knew someone was having a tough week. No one missed my calls, asking about the grandchildren's school events or offering to help with various projects and obligations. The silence was telling, but it was also strangely liberating. For the first time in 50 years, I was only responsible for myself. I wasn't scheduling my days around other people's needs. I wasn't rushing from one family crisis to another. I wasn't staying up late worrying about whether everyone had enough money for rent, enough food in their refrigerators, enough support for whatever challenges they were facing. Instead, I started reading books I'd been meaning to get to for decades. I joined a book club at the local library and discovered I had opinions about literature that had nothing to do with helping children with homework. I signed up for a watercolor painting class at the community center and found out I had a talent I'd never had time to explore. I began taking long walks in the park and actually noticed the changing seasons instead of rushing through them on my way to solve someone else's problem. I also started paying attention to my own needs for the first time in decades. I realized I'd been living on the leftover scraps of my own life, giving away all the good parts to other people. I started cooking meals I actually wanted to eat instead of what I thought everyone else would prefer. I bought clothes I liked instead of practical things that wouldn't show stains when I was serving food or cleaning up after grandchildren. I watched movies I wanted to see instead of endless Disney films and cartoons. 3 weeks after Mother's Day, Emma called me. Her voice was concerned, almost frantic. "Grandma, I miss you," she said. Why haven't you been coming to dinner on Sundays? Dad keeps asking Mom where you are, and Mom keeps saying she doesn't know, but she assumes you're busy. Oh, sweetheart, I said, my heart warming at the sound of her voice. She was the first family member to reach out, the first person to notice my absence and actually care about it. I just figured everyone was too busy. No one mentioned missing the dinners. Are you kidding? Dad's been complaining all week that no one's organizing anything and everyone's scattered. Mom keeps saying she doesn't know what to cook for everyone because she doesn't have your recipes written down, and she's not used to cooking for that many people. Uncle David asked Dad why you weren't coordinating things like usual. And honestly, everyone seems kind of lost without you there to, make everything work. That conversation with Emma was enlightening in the most painful way possible. My family wasn't missing me as a person. They were missing me as their unpaid event planner, cook, and problem solver. They missed what I did for them, not who I was. They were inconvenienced by my absence, not heartbroken by it. Grandma, are you okay? Emma asked. You sound different. I'm fine, sweetheart. Actually, I'm better than fine. I'm discovering who I am when I'm not constantly taking care of everyone else. What do you mean? I paused, wondering how to explain to a 17-year-old what it had taken me 72 years to figure out. I mean, I've spent so many years being everyone's mother and grandmother that I forgot I was also Linda. I forgot I had interests and opinions and needs that mattered too. That makes sense, Emma said thoughtfully. I've been thinking about your Instagram post, and I realized I've never seen you do anything just for yourself. You're always doing things for other people. My wise granddaughter had noticed something that her parents, uncles, and even I had missed for decades. A few days later, Michael called. His tone was annoyed rather than concerned. Mom, what's going on? You haven't been around lately. Jennifer's been asking where you are. I've been fine, I said calmly. Just giving everyone some space since you all seemed so busy on Mother's Day. Oh, that, he said dismissively. Look, we explained that. Jennifer's mom was visiting and we had commitments. Can you do Sunday dinner this week? Jennifer's been stressed about cooking for everyone and the kids have been asking when Grandma's coming back. There it was, not we miss you, or we want to spend time with you, or we're sorry we hurt your feelings. Just, can you solve our problem? Can you go back to being our unpaid caterer so Jennifer doesn't have to be stressed? I'm actually busy this Sunday, I said. It was true. I had plans to go to an art museum with my book club friends, something I'd never done before because I'd always been cooking for 15 people every weekend. Maybe you and Jennifer could handle it this week. I could hear the surprise in his voice. I'd never said no to a family dinner request in my life. Never. Sunday dinners were sacred, and I was the high priestess who made them happen. Oh, okay. Well, maybe next week then? Maybe, I said. Word must have spread that I was becoming unavailable, because suddenly my phone started ringing with increasing frequency and urgency. Sarah called to complain that I hadn't been babysitting her kids after school like I usually did. Mom, you know I'm counting on you, she said, her voice stressed and accusatory. I had to pay for after-school care this week, and it's expensive. I thought you loved spending time with the kids. I do love spending time with them, I replied. But there's a difference between spending quality time with my grandchildren and providing free childcare so you can save money. What's that supposed to mean? It means that when you drop them off here and leave immediately, when you pick them up without even coming inside to chat, when you schedule it around your convenience without asking about mine, that's not spending time together as a family. That's using me as a service. The silence on the other end of the phone told me she'd never thought about it that way. David called to ask if I could loan him money for his mortgage payment. He'd been laid off from his job 2 months earlier and was struggling financially. In the past, I would have immediately transferred money to his account without question. I'm not in a position to help this month, I said calmly. What do you mean you're not in a position to help? He asked, genuinely shocked. But Mom, you always help when we need it. You have savings. Having savings doesn't mean I'm obligated to give them away, I explained. And constantly bailing you out financially doesn't actually help you learn to manage your money better. I can't believe you're being so selfish, he said angrily. Family is supposed to help family. You're right, I agreed. Family is supposed to help family. When was the last time you helped me with anything, David? He couldn't answer because we both knew the truth. The help in our family only went one direction. Robert called to see if I could drive up and help with the baby for a weekend because his wife Amanda was overwhelmed with the newborn sleep schedule. In the past, I would have dropped everything and driven an hour each way to spend my weekend doing night feedings and diaper changes while they caught up on sleep. I'm not available this weekend, I told him. I have commitments in town. What commitments? He asked, actually sounding angry. You're retired. What could you possibly have to do that's more important than helping your son with his baby. I have a life, Robert, I said simply. I have friends, hobbies, plans, and interests that matter to me. Just because I'm retired doesn't mean I'm available to drop everything whenever someone needs me. Since when do you have a life? He asked incredulously. That question hit me like a slap in the face. Since when did I have a life? The fact that my own son couldn't imagine me having interests, friends, or plans that didn't revolve around serving my family was the clearest indication of how completely I'd erased myself over the years. Since now, I said quietly, and hung up. Each conversation made it clearer. I wasn't a mother to these people. I wasn't even really a person to them. I was a resource. I was the person who solved problems, provided money, offered free childcare, and organized their lives. They had no interest in me as a human being with my own needs, desires, limitations, and feelings. The revelation was devastating, but it was also liberating. For the first time in my adult life, I could see clearly what my relationships really were, instead of what I'd convinced myself they were. 6 weeks after Mother's Day, Michael called with news that would shake our family to its core. "Mom, we need to talk," he said, his voice serious in a way I hadn't heard since he was a teenager, caught doing something he shouldn't have been doing. "Can you come over tonight? Everyone's going to be here." When I arrived at his house that evening, all 4 of my children were there with their spouses. The atmosphere was tense, and everyone looked uncomfortable, like they'd drawn straws to see who had to have this conversation, and nobody had wanted to win. I sat down in the living room where I'd spent countless hours babysitting grandchildren, helping with homework, and solving family crises, and waited for someone to speak. The silence stretched on until it became almost unbearable. "Mom," Sarah began finally, "we've been talking, and we're worried about you." "Worried about me?" I asked, genuinely confused. "Why?" "You've been different lately," David added, shifting uncomfortably in his chair. "Distant, unavailable, not like yourself." "We think you might be depressed," Jennifer chimed in, her voice taking on the tone people use when they think they're being helpful, but are actually being condescending. "Maybe you should talk to someone, a therapist or counselor or something." I looked around the room at these 4 adults I'd raised, and their spouses who'd benefited from my generosity for years, and I realized they genuinely believed that my mental health was the problem. Not their neglect, not their taking me for granted, not their complete failure to see me as a person rather than a service provider. My unwillingness to continue being their unpaid servant was, in their minds, a sign of mental illness. "Let me understand this correctly," I said slowly, my voice calm but firm. "You're concerned about my mental health because I stopped organizing your lives for you?" "That's not what we're saying," Michael protested, though his tone suggested that was exactly what they were saying. "We're saying you're not acting like Mom anymore." "And what does acting like Mom mean to you, Michael?" He shifted uncomfortably, glancing at his wife before answering. "You know, being there for the family, being involved, caring about what's going on with everyone. Being available whenever any of you need something," I translated. "Well, yes, that's what family does for each other." "Really?" I asked, leaning forward in my chair. "What do you do for me?" The silence in that room was deafening. For a full minute, not one of them could answer that question. They looked at each other, looked at the floor, looked anywhere but at me, because they all knew the truth. They did nothing for me. I was the giver, and they were the takers, and that arrangement had been so normalized over the decades that they'd convinced themselves it was healthy. Finally, Robert spoke up, his voice defensive. "Mom, we love you. You know that." "Do I?" I asked. "Because love isn't just a feeling, Robert. Love is action. Love is showing up. Love is remembering that the person exists even when you don't need something from them. Love is caring about someone's happiness and well-being, not just their usefulness to you." "We show up," Sarah protested, though her voice lacked conviction. "When?" I asked. "When do you show up for me? When did any of you last call just to see how I was doing, not because you needed something? When did any of you last invite me to something fun, not because you needed me to help organize it? When did any of you last ask what I needed or wanted? When did any of you last consider my feelings before making plans that affected me?" More silence, the kind of silence that speaks volumes. "Mom, you never ask for anything," David said defensively. "How are we supposed to know what you need if you don't tell us?" "I shouldn't have to ask my children to remember my existence," I replied. "I shouldn't have to beg for a phone call on Mother's Day. I shouldn't have to request basic consideration and respect from the people I've spent my entire adult life loving and supporting. You're being unreasonable, Kelly, David's wife, said with a frown. We all have our own lives and responsibilities. Of course you do, I agreed. And so do I. That's exactly my point. That's when Jennifer made the mistake that changed everything forever. Look, Linda, she said with barely concealed irritation, her tone sharp and dismissive. We're all adults with our own lives and responsibilities. We can't be expected to manage your emotional needs too. If you're feeling neglected or whatever, that's something you need to work out with a therapist, not take it out on the family. The room went dead quiet. Even my children looked shocked that she'd spoken to me that way, though none of them had the backbone to defend me. I stood up slowly, picking up my purse with hands that were perfectly steady, despite the anger and hurt coursing through my veins. You're absolutely right, Jennifer, I said calmly, my voice controlled and clear. You can't be expected to manage my emotional needs, just like I can't be expected to manage your practical needs anymore. What does that mean? Michael asked, though I could see in his eyes that he was starting to understand exactly what it meant. It means I'm done, I said simply. I'm done being the mother who gives everything and receives nothing. I'm done being the grandmother who provides free childcare while being excluded from family celebrations. I'm done being the emergency contact who solves everyone's problems while being forgotten the rest of the time. I'm done being treated like hired help by people who are supposed to love me. Mom, you're being dramatic, Sarah said, though her voice was less certain than her words. Am I? I asked. Let's see how dramatic it feels when you need something and I'm not there. Let's see how dramatic it feels when there's no one to organize your Sunday dinners, watch your children, loan you money, or clean up your messes. I walked toward the door, then turned back to face the room full of people who had taken my love for granted for decades. For 50 years, I've been available to this family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I've given my time, my money, my energy, and my love freely and without keeping score. I've prioritized your needs over my own so consistently that you've forgotten I have needs at all. I've sacrificed my own dreams, my own friendships, my own happiness to make sure you were all taken care of. That ends today. You can't just cut us off, David protested, panic creeping into his voice as he realized what life would look like without his mother's constant support. I'm not cutting you off, I corrected. I'm establishing boundaries. If you want a relationship with me, it needs to be a two-way street. If you want my help, you need to offer something in return. If you want me in your lives, you need to make space for me in your lives as a person, not just as a service provider. This is ridiculous, Robert said, standing up and pacing. We're family. This isn't how family works. You're right, I agreed. This isn't how family works. Family members care about each other. They remember each other's special days. They check in on each other. They include each other in celebrations. They see each other as people, not just resources. And it's time this family started acting like a real family instead of like a group of clients and their service provider. I left that house feeling lighter than I had in years. I was done explaining myself to people who didn't want to understand. I was done justifying my worth to people who'd forgotten it existed. I was done begging for love from people who only valued what I could do for them. The next few months were revealing in ways I hadn't expected. I watched my family struggle without me there to hold everything together, and I learned some hard truths about the relationships I'd spent decades building. Sarah was the first to crack. She called 2 weeks later, crying because she couldn't afford the after-school childcare, and her mother-in-law was too busy to help with the kids. Mom, I really need you, she sobbed into the phone. The kids miss their grandma, and I don't know what to do. Lucy keeps asking when you're coming back, and I can't explain to her why you're not around anymore. I miss them too, I said honestly. But missing each other and having a relationship are two different things. When was the last time you brought them to see me when you didn't need babysitting? When was the last time we spent time together just because you enjoyed my company? She couldn't answer because we both knew the truth. She only brought the children to me when she needed something, and she only called when she had a problem I could solve. If you want me to be their grandmother, then treat me like their grandmother, I said firmly. Include me in their lives because you value my relationship with them, not because you need free childcare. Invite me to school plays and soccer games because you want me there, not because you need help organizing snacks for the team. I didn't realize, she said quietly. I know you didn't, I replied. But that's the problem. You stopped seeing me as a person years ago. Michael's crisis came a month later when Emma got sick and needed emergency surgery for appendicitis. He called me panicking because Jennifer was out of town visiting her mother, and he didn't know how to handle things at the hospital alone. Mom, can you come? Emma's asking for you, and I don't know what to do. The doctors are talking about surgery and I'm scared and I don't understand all the medical terms. I dropped everything and drove to the hospital, of course. Emma was my granddaughter, and I loved her more than life itself. But when Michael assumed I'd stay for 3 days to help manage everything, coordinating with doctors, staying overnight at the hospital, handling meals and logistics, I set him straight. "I'll be here while Emma needs me," I said. "But you're her father, Michael. You need to figure out how to be present for your daughter during a medical crisis." "But you always handle this stuff," he protested. "You know how to talk to doctors and understand medical things." "And that's been my mistake," I replied. "I've been so busy taking care of everyone that I never taught you how to take care of yourselves or your own children." Watching him struggle to advocate for his daughter, to ask the right questions, to comfort her when she was scared, was painful but necessary. He was 45 years old and had never had to handle a family medical crisis because I'd always swooped in to manage everything. David's reality check came when his wife Kelly temporarily left him after discovering he'd been hiding credit card debt and gambling losses. He called me in a complete panic, assuming I'd move in to help him manage the house and kids while she was gone, like I'd done during previous family crises. "Mom, I need you to come stay with us," he said desperately. "I can't handle the twins' school schedules and the house and work all by myself. Kelly took care of everything, and now I don't even know where their permission slips are, or when they have dance class. I can help occasionally," I told him. "But I'm not moving in to manage your life, David. You need to learn how to do this yourself." "But Mom, I don't know how to handle everything alone. I've never had to do this stuff." "Then you'll learn," I said firmly. "The same way I learned when your father died and I had 4 children to raise by myself while working full-time to keep us afloat financially." "That's different," he protested. "How is it different?" Because you're the mom. Moms know how to do everything. Moms aren't born knowing how to do everything, David. We learn because we have to. And now you have to learn too." Robert, predictably, never did call for help or acknowledge that anything had changed. His wife Amanda later told me at a chance encounter at the grocery store that he'd said I was going through a phase and would come around eventually when I got lonely enough. Apparently, he was still waiting for me to go back to being the mother who sacrificed everything for her children's convenience. But the most beautiful part of this whole transformation was watching my relationship with Emma grow stronger and deeper. She started calling me just to talk, visiting me on weekends not because her parents needed a babysitter, but because she genuinely enjoyed spending time with me. She asked for advice about school and boys and college plans. She became my friend, not just my granddaughter, because she was the only family member who saw me as a person worth knowing, not just a resource to be used. One evening, about 6 months after that confrontational family meeting, Emma and I were making dinner together in my kitchen. She was telling me about her college applications and her dreams of becoming a teacher, following in the footsteps of the woman who had inspired her most. "Grandma," she said suddenly, pausing in the middle of chopping vegetables, "I'm proud of you." "Proud of me for what, sweetheart?" "For standing up for yourself, for teaching me that it's okay to have boundaries, for showing me what self-respect looks like." I stopped stirring the sauce and looked at this beautiful young woman who somehow understood things that her parents never would. "You know," she continued, setting down the knife and turning to face me fully, "I used to think that being a good woman meant never saying no to your family. I thought it meant always putting everyone else first, even when it hurt you. I thought that's what love looked like, complete self-sacrifice. But watching you these past few months taught me that's not love at all. That's martyrdom. And martyrs don't raise strong children. They raise people who expect others to sacrifice for them without giving anything back." I hugged her then, this wise 17-year-old who had learned more about healthy relationships in 6 months than her parents had learned in decades. "I want to be strong like you," she said into my shoulder. "I want to love my family without losing myself. I want to give to people without becoming invisible." "Then you will," I told her, holding her tight, "because you see the difference, and that awareness is everything." Emma pulled back and looked at me seriously. "Can I tell you something that might hurt your feelings?" "Of course, sweetheart. I've been watching my parents and my uncles these past few months, and I'm kind of ashamed of them," she said quietly. "Like, really ashamed. When I posted that thing about you on Instagram, I thought it would make them realize what they were missing. I thought they'd see how amazing you are and start treating you better. But instead, they just got mad at you for not being available anymore." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "It's like they don't even see you as a real person. They see you as, like a vending machine or something. Put in the request, get what you need, walk away. And when the vending machine stops working, they get angry at the machine instead of wondering if maybe they should have been putting some money in occasionally." Her analogy was so accurate, it made my heart ache. I'm sorry you've had to see that, Emma. I'm sorry you've had to watch your family treat your grandmother poorly. Don't apologize, she said firmly. I'm glad I got to see it, because now I know what not to do. Now I know that love is supposed to go both ways, and I'm never going to let anyone treat me the way they've been treating you, even if they're family. Emma's perspective gave me insight into something I hadn't fully considered, the example I'd been setting for my grandchildren, especially the granddaughters. By accepting poor treatment, by prioritizing everyone else's needs over my own, by making myself invisible, I'd been teaching them that this was what women were supposed to do. I'd been perpetuating a cycle of self-sacrifice and codependency that could have affected another generation. But by standing up for myself, by establishing boundaries, by demanding to be treated with respect and consideration, I was teaching Emma and her female cousins a different lesson. I was showing them that they mattered, that their needs were important, that love shouldn't require them to disappear. A year after that life-changing Mother's Day, things in my family had settled into a new normal that looked very different from the old patterns. Sarah and I had rebuilt our relationship on more equal terms, though it had taken months of difficult conversations and boundary setting. She still asked for help with the kids occasionally, but she also invited me to school plays and soccer games because she wanted me there, not because she needed me to handle logistics. She remembered my birthday without being reminded, called just to check in and chat about her day, and included me in planning family events as a valued family member rather than an unpaid coordinator. She even started bringing the children to visit me on weekends sometimes, not because she needed babysitting, but because she wanted them to have a real relationship with their grandmother. The change in our relationship became clear during Lucy's birthday party planning. In the past, Sarah would have called me with a list of tasks. Mom, can you make the cake, decorate the house, organize the games, and clean up afterward? This time she called and asked, Mom, would you like to help plan Lucy's party? We were thinking of having it at the park, and I'd love your input on what kind of cake she might like. The difference was subtle but significant. She was asking for my collaboration rather than my labor, my opinion rather than my services. Michael took longer to come around, but Emma's influence eventually helped him see what he'd been missing. The turning point came when Emma confronted him directly about his treatment of me. Dad, she told him one evening, you need to apologize to Grandma and mean it, like really mean it, because the way you've been treating her is embarrassing, and I don't want to be part of a family that treats the best person in it like garbage. The fact that his teenage daughter was ashamed of his behavior was apparently more motivating than any of my attempts to explain how his actions affected me. He called me a few days later and asked if we could have coffee together, just the two of us. Mom, he said, sitting across from me in the small cafe where we'd met, I owe you an apology, a big one. I've been a terrible son, and I didn't even realize it until Emma made me see what I was doing. I'm listening, I said simply. I think I got so used to you always being there, always taking care of everything, that I stopped seeing you as a person with feelings and needs, he admitted. You were just Mom, the person who handled stuff. And when you stopped handling stuff, I got angry at you instead of looking at why you stopped. He paused, looking down at his coffee cup. I never thanked you for all those years of taking care of us. I never thought about how hard it must have been, working and raising 4 kids alone. I never considered that you might want something for yourself sometimes. I just expected you to always be available, always ready to help, always putting us first. And now? I asked. Now I want to know who you are when you're not taking care of everyone else, he said. I want to hear about your painting class and your book club friends. I want to know what movies you like and what you think about things. I want to have a relationship with my mother, not just use my mother. It was a good start. Michael began inviting me to dinner without expecting me to cook it. He asked about my watercolor class and seemed genuinely interested in seeing my paintings. He stopped calling only when he needed something and started calling just to chat. He included me in family plans and asked for my input on decisions rather than just informing me of conclusions. David eventually figured out how to manage his life after Kelly returned, and they worked out their problems together. The experience of having to handle his responsibilities alone had been humbling and educational. When he did ask for my help now, it was with genuine appreciation rather than entitled expectation. He also started acknowledging what I'd done for the family over the years, which was something he'd never done before. Mom, he said, during one of our conversations, I never realized how much you were carrying for all of us. When Kelly left and I had to handle everything myself for a few weeks, I barely managed 2 kids and a job. You did that with 4 kids and worked full-time for years after Dad died. I don't know how you did it. I did it because I had to, I told him, and because I loved you all. But doing it didn't mean I didn't need support and appreciation. It didn't mean I didn't deserve to be treated with consideration and respect. Robert sadly never quite got it. He remained stuck in the old patterns, calling when he needed something and disappearing when he didn't. He seemed to view my transformation as a temporary rebellion that would eventually end when I came to my senses and went back to being his accommodating mother. When I maintained my boundaries consistently, he became increasingly resentful. "I don't understand why you're being so difficult," he said during one of our rare conversations. "Family is supposed to help each other. That's what you taught us." "I taught you that family helps each other," I corrected, "but somehow you only learned the part about taking help, not giving it." But I'd made peace with Robert's inability to change. I couldn't force someone to value me, but I could refuse to accept being undervalued. Our relationship became cordial but distant, which was sad but necessary for my own well-being. The most important change, though, was in me. I learned that giving everything doesn't make you indispensable. It makes you invisible. I learned that love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's codependency dressed up as virtue. I learned that being a good mother doesn't mean sacrificing yourself completely. It means modeling self-respect, so your children learn to respect themselves and others. I'm 73 now, and for the first time in my adult life, I'm living for myself as much as I'm living for others. I have friends who value my company and seek out my opinion on things that have nothing to do with solving their problems. I have hobbies that bring me joy and give me a sense of accomplishment. I have boundaries that protect my peace and energy. I still love my family deeply, but I love myself too, and that balance has made all the difference. My art class friends don't know me as someone's mother or grandmother. They know me as Linda, the woman who makes them laugh with her observations about life, who always remembers their birthdays, who gives thoughtful advice about their own family situations. My book club friends value my insights about literature and my perspective on the world. These relationships are based on mutual enjoyment and respect rather than need and obligation. Emma graduated high school this spring and chose a college that's only 2 hours away, specifically because she wanted to stay close to me. Not because she needs me to take care of her, but because she genuinely enjoys spending time with me and values our relationship. "Grandma," she told me at graduation, "you saved my life." How did I save your life, sweetheart? By teaching me that I matter, by showing me that love isn't about disappearing for other people, by proving that a woman can be strong and kind at the same time, by demonstrating that it's possible to love your family without losing yourself. She paused, adjusting her graduation cap. "But mostly by showing me what it looks like to stand up for yourself, even when it's hard, even when people get mad at you, even when it would be easier to just go back to the way things were." As I watched her walk across that stage to receive her diploma, I realized that all those years of giving everything to my children hadn't been wasted, even though it had taken them decades to appreciate it. Emma had been watching, learning, seeing what real love looked like, and when I finally learned to love myself enough to demand better treatment, I taught her the most important lesson of all. That Mother's Day, that broke my heart, ended up being the best thing that ever happened to me. It forced me to see the truth about my relationships and gave me the courage to demand better. It taught me that being forgotten by the people you love isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their inability to see it. And sometimes, when people can't see your worth, the kindest thing you can do for everyone involved is to step back and let them figure out what they've lost. Some of them will learn and grow and become better people. Some of them won't. But you'll be okay either way because you'll finally know your own value. That teenage girl who posted about me on Instagram when no one else remembered I existed? She's in college now, studying to be a teacher, planning to change the world one child at a time. She calls me every Sunday night, not because she needs something, but because talking to me is one of the highlights of her week. She asks for my advice on everything from boys to career choices to how to handle difficult roommates. She sends me pictures of her artwork and essays she's written. She includes me in her life because my presence matters to her. And every time she calls, every time she asks for my opinion, every time she tells me she loves me, not because she needs something, but because she genuinely enjoys my company, I'm reminded that love doesn't have to hurt. Real love sees you. Real love remembers you. Real love shows up for you, not just when it's convenient, but because your presence in their life matters. I spent 50 years being the mother who was always there for everyone else. Now I'm the grandmother who's there for the people who are there for me too. I'm the friend who shows up for people who show up for me. I'm the woman who gives her love to people who value it and protect it. And that feels like coming home to myself after a very long journey. The Sunday dinners still happen sometimes, but now they're collaborative efforts where everyone contributes something. Sarah brings a salad, Michael handles the main course, David provides dessert, and I make my famous bread rolls, not because I have to, but because I want to. The conversation is different too. Instead of everyone updating me on their problems and expecting solutions, we actually talk to each other. We discuss books and movies and current events. We laugh together. We enjoy each other's company rather than just using each other's services. Emma often joins us for these dinners when she's home from college, and watching her interact with the family is enlightening. She doesn't hesitate to call out behavior that's inconsiderate or selfish. She asks thoughtful questions about everyone's lives. She makes an effort to include me in conversations and seeks out my opinions. She's become a bridge between the old family dynamics and the new ones, showing her parents and uncles what healthy relationships look like. "You know what I love about our family dinners now?" she said to me recently as we were clearing dishes together. "They actually feel like family dinners. Before, it felt like you were hosting a bunch of people who happened to be related to you. Now it feels like we're all here because we want to be here." She was right. The energy was completely different. Instead of obligation and expectation, there was genuine affection and mutual enjoyment. If this story has touched your heart, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories about finding your strength, setting boundaries, and learning to value yourself. Remember, you teach people how to treat you, and you're never too old to start teaching better lessons. Your worth isn't determined by how much you give to others. It's inherent in who you are as a person, and anyone who can't see that worth doesn't deserve access to your gifts. I'm 73 years old, and I'm finally living the life I always deserved but never thought I was allowed to have. It took me 7 decades to learn that loving others doesn't require hating yourself, that giving to your family doesn't mean sacrificing your identity, and that being needed isn't the same as being loved. But it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to demand better. It's never too late to remember that you matter too. And sometimes, the people who truly love you will surprise you by rising to meet your new standards. And the ones who don't? Well, they weren't really loving you anyway. They were just using you. And you deserve so much more than that.